Hello there, my fellow gamers. Once more, we will not talk about notebooks on the channel today, but rather about what is basically my perfect version of a Mini-ITX setup. So we will not only deal with this little box of power I put together inside the Fractal Design Terra, but also about this absolute behemoth of a 42-inch 4K gaming monitor and some pretty sweet peripherals from the folks over at Razer. So before we get into building this puppy, let me walk you through every single piece of tech we are dealing with today. For the Mini-ITX system, I opted for the Asus ProArt RTX 4080. It's not only a super clean card when it comes to looks, but it is also one of the smallest 4080s available, making it the perfect fit for such a small enclosure. On the CPU side of things, we went for the AMD Ryzen 7800X3D, once more since we are limited in size and cooling, and because this is primarily going to be a gaming system. The Ryzen chip is sitting on an Asus ROG Strix B650E Wi-Fi together with 32 gigs of Crucial DDR5 4800 RAM and a 1TB NVMe SSD also from Crucial. All the frames coming from our RTX 4080 are displayed on the absolutely gorgeous Philips Evnia 42-inch M2N 8900-00. Seriously? In the peripherals department, I asked Razer to send us a few of their latest goodies. And on the keyboard side of things, we are dealing with the Mercury Huntsman Mini with their very own linear red switches in a 60% layout. When it comes to pointing at things and clicking on heads, the Razer Basilisk V3 Pro takes over, and of course we need to hear something and talk to our teammates. So the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro is our latest piece of the puzzle. Alright, so before I am able to tell you more about all of these things, by the way, we have affiliate links in the description below if you want to get something for yourself and you want to support us, we have to put this system together. Since there's a lot of content on YouTube about the Terra already, I will just briefly walk you through my very own experience. This was only my second Mini-ITX build, and actually the first in this sort of two-chamber layout, but it was a pretty painless affair altogether. The Terra is very well made, and for the most part you do not even have to consult a manual to know how things come apart or what goes where. All the chassis pieces are extremely solid, and I just love the design approach Fractal Design is taking with their latest premium cases. Even though you do not have a ton of space to work with, everything fit without a problem, and the whole build would have taken me about an hour if I wouldn't have been filming it for you guys. The only area where I encountered a small problem was plugging in the right angle power connector into the power supply for the pass-through. But apart from that, it was a pretty chilled build experience, and while my cable management is not the cleanest, since this is not an RGB tempered class from all sides build, well, I hope you guys will give me some leeway in this regard. With that out of the way, let's circle back to our peripherals for now. The Huntsman Mini is actually my first 60% keyboard here in the studio, and while I'm personally daily driving at ducky 65%, this form factor took me quite a while to get used to. Don't get me wrong, this is not Razer's fault. I knew what I would get when I asked for this, but especially the missing arrow keys ask for some rewiring in your muscle memory. But once you get used to it, this is an amazing keyboard, and I really like their linear switches, both for typing and games. For me, they just feel right. The keys do sound a little rattly, especially the spacebar, and I wish the whole keyboard would have been a little bit heavier for a more funky feel overall. That said, I'm not a hardcore mechanical keyboard enthusiast, and for the price I would say it's actually a pretty solid and very compact keyboard that just looks plain awesome. Their Basilisk V3 Pro is also pretty insane, and I'm not sure I ever came across a mouse that was this densely packed with heaps of technology. And of course the ability to light up the whole room with the obligatory chroma integration. Again, I'm not an esports pro, nor a full-time mouse reviewer, but I like this one a lot, even though it is a pretty expensive piece of tech. The overall shape fits my hand pretty well, and all of the additional buttons are easy to reach and feel satisfying to use. It also glides very well and can be customized extensively within Razer Synapse software. Add in some flexible connectivity with a fabric sleeved USB cable, their wireless hyperspeed tech and Bluetooth, and you got yourself a premium high quality gaming mouse. The Blackshark V2 Pro comes with a similar flexibility, making it quite a versatile audio companion for your gaming sessions, movies and just general use cases. You can connect this puppy to your machines with either the hyperspeed dongle, Bluetooth or the included cable. And with a dedicated button you can even switch seamlessly between Bluetooth and the dongle. And the volume wheel allows for quick and easy on-the-fly adjustments during gameplay. I like the kind of retro headset appearance quite a bit, and once again it complements the look of our setup here quite nicely. It's also pretty comfortable with very cushy padding all around, and I had no problems wearing these for longer gaming sessions or work. They also sound pretty balanced to a point where I would not mind a little bit more bass here and there. But again, I am no audiophile and I think sound is a pretty subjective thing, so I would recommend you try these for yourself before taking my word for it. The detachable mic sounds pretty good for a headset solution, and to give you guys an idea what to expect, I prepared some samples for you. So this is the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro without any additional processing, apart from normalizing the audio track. And by the way, if you are having fun so far, please feel free to like this video and sub to the channel. As a point of reference, these are my Biodynamic MMX 300, which are in a similar price category. So please let us know in the comments below which one of these sound better in your opinion. Alright, so we got our peripherals covered. So it's time to talk about our display of choice today. At first glance you might mistake the Philips for a TV, because of its size and because of its overall super clean appearance. But Evnia is indeed the brand's gaming division, and it's refreshing to see a company build a product that is not all angled, sports car design and RGB everywhere. But with up to 138 Hz, 4K and FreeSync Premium Pro and a super fast OLED panel, this one is a gamer to the core. In addition, Philips added a ton of useful features to make this a pretty solid centerpiece for your setup. And the 42-inch behemoth comes with 4 USB ports for your peripherals, USB-C with power delivery, DisplayPort and 2 HDMI 2.1s. The KVM switch is also pretty handy if you want to use this with the same mouse and keyboard for your desktop and your laptop, for example. And overall, I had a great time with this one. The main specs are pretty solid, even though we have been able to observe the usual brightness limitations as we have seen from other larger format OLEDs in the past. If you display an all-white image, brightness is only about 120 nits across the whole screen, and in SDR it does not get above 200 nits even for smaller bits of content. Only in HDR it goes beyond 600 nits, making for a pretty sweet high contrast gaming and movie experience. Just be aware that this is not the perfect display for super bright rooms. If you want to use this for work, the Evnia was not very well calibrated from the factory, even though our manual calibration did improve things quite drastically. It even comes with an sRGB profile, which I try to use for our videos, but unfortunately it also lifts black levels quite considerably, making it pretty difficult to work with. So for content consumption, this thing is absolutely amazing, but for content creation, well, there are better options out there. But let's finally talk about the brain of it all, and let's kick things off with the CPU. I actually thought I had to do some tinkering to make it all work when it comes to temperatures, fan curves and power levels to keep our 7800 X3D from cooking itself. I mean, in the end we only put a Noctua NHL9 with a slim 92mm fan on here. But to my surprise, everything was running so well out of the box that I simply did not bother and tested the whole system without any additional setup. And while CPU performance was not our main objective here, the numbers in my testing might have been lower compared to when we properly tested the same chip, but this was on a test bench with a 360mm AIO to keep the chip running at maximum wattage. We will talk more about power and temperatures later in the video with our noise samples, but I was actually pretty surprised on how well this silicon works when it's just zipping power. But this was supposed to be a gaming system, so let's talk GPU here. As with our CPU, I was not expecting to break any records in 3DMark or the like, and simply put, the performance we get in our synthetics rating is alright if not spectacular. But again, if we compare these scores, when we usually test GPUs, we also pair them with the fastest CPUs available to eliminate any bottlenecks, which is something to keep in mind with those numbers. So you can imagine my surprise when we actually transitioned to something a little bit more real world. And in our gaming rating, a selection of older games in 1080p, our tiny box of power was actually able to keep up with our test bench systems without that much of a problem, despite the more basic cooling solution, pretty low power levels and an 8-core CPU. So it seems like Team Red's 3D V-Cache is indeed doing something. The same holds true for much more recent titles, and the small system is punching way above its weight class and delivers a pretty solid and very enjoyable overall gaming experience. Please enjoy our benchmarks, and while you do, please consider once more to like the video and sub to the channel. It means a lot to us. Alright, before we wrap things up for today, is all of this performance turning this little guy into a screaming hotbox? Well, actually the contrary. I have the CPU fan running in the silent profile in Asus's Armory Crate software, and everything else is in the respective default settings, and this puppy is actually super quiet. But do not take my word for it, as usual I have prepared some noise samples with power levels and temperatures for you, so you can make up your own mind. So was my plan to put together a super clean, well-performing 4K Mini-ITX big screen gaming setup a success? Well, for me it was, and I know this is a premium selection of hardware that is pretty darn expensive if you put it all together, but damn did it make for a great experience. I enjoyed using just a single big screen for everything that functions as the central hub with all the peripherals connected to it. The visual experience with the Evnia is simply insane for games and movies and general content consumption, and the set of Razer peripherals also did their job flawlessly. As for the system itself, what can I say? This little guy did everything I was expecting without any considerable drawbacks when it comes to noise and cooling. And I mean, sure, you can put together faster systems, especially when it comes to pure CPU grunt. But since this was meant to be a gaming system first, well, I would say mission accomplished. But please guys, I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about all of this. Would you have configured something differently, and what would be your perfect dream setup? Sound off in the comments below. This shall be it for today. As always, leave your like and sub if you had a good time. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex, you have been awesome, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.